The sun slowly dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange, pink, and purple. Its last rays of light danced upon the still surface of a crystal-clear lake, creating shimmering ripples that whispered tales of the day. The air was warm, carrying with it the sweet scent of blooming night jasmine and the earthy aroma of the ancient forest that stood as a silent sentinel at the edge of the water. As twilight deepened into dusk, the first stars began to appear, pricking the inky canvas of the night sky like tiny diamonds. Overhead, the Milky Way stretched across the heavens, a river of stars flowing majestically from one end of the sky to the other. The only sound that dared to break the stillness was the gentle lapping of the water against the shore, a soothing melody that lulled the world into tranquility. Then, far off in the distance, a rumble of thunder echoed over the still surface of the lake, carried on the wings of the evening breeze. It was a sound both powerful and distant, like a giant's footsteps fading into the hush of the twilight. This solitary clap of thunder reverberated across the calm expanse of the lake, momentarily shattering the silence, only to be swallowed by the vastness of the night once more. The spectacle of the evening sky, the distant rumble of thunder, and the mirrored reflection of it all in the placid lake created an atmosphere of serene beauty. For those who paused to appreciate it, the world seemed to hold its breath, caught in the spell of the setting sun and the promise of the coming rain. In this moment of hushed anticipation, the air itself seemed charged with a strange energy, a pregnant quiet that hinted at the drama the heavens had in store. As the last sliver of the sun dipped below the horizon, the sky blazed one last time in a final burst of color, a spectacular farewell before the curtain of night drew fully closed. And then, as if awakened by the celestial display, the chorus of the evening erupted. From the depths of the forest at the edge of the lake, a symphony of crickets and tree frogs joined the song, their music a celebration of the day's end and the coming night. Fireflies began their nightly dance, their tiny lights flickering in the gathering darkness like fallen stars come to rest upon the earth. And above it all, the Milky Way continued its silent journey across the sky, a constant reminder of the boundless wonders that lay hidden from the view of most yet were revealed to those who took the time to look up and wonder. As the orchestra of the evening reached its crescendo, the rumble of thunder grew louder, closer, more insistent. No longer a distant echo, the sound now resonated with power, shaking the very foundations of the world. It was a sound that commanded attention, a reminder of nature's raw might that stirred something primal within the observer. With each rolling peal of thunder, the sky illuminated with jagged forks of lightning, searing the darkness and leaving behind shimmering trails of light that danced and flickered in the wind. Between the flashes, the lake was a mirror of swirling silver, reflecting the fury of the heavens above. And then, as if in answer to the thunder's call, the first fat raindrops began to fall. They descended from the sky, not in a gentle shower, but in a torrent, drumming on the thirsty ground, unleashing the pent-up energy of the storm. With a suddenness that was both dramatic and awe-inspiring, the downpour intensified, transforming the placid lake into a churning sea. Waves reared and crashed against each other, their white crests frothing in the wind. Rain lashed against the surface, blurring the reflection of the sky and turning the water into a churning mass of gray and white. In the midst of the storm, the lone figure of a man stood at the edge of the pier, his silhouette stark against the tempestuous backdrop. His eyes were fixed on the raging lake, his gaze unwavering, lost in the contemplation of the elemental forces that played out before him. Whether he sought solace in the storm or was merely captivated by its raw power remained a mystery. As the rain continued its relentless assault, the thunder roared its approval, each clap of thunder reverberating through the very core of the storm. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the turmoil below, making the lake a scene of dazzling chaos. It was a display of nature's untamed spirit, a spectacle that both terrified and exhilarated, leaving those who witnessed it humbled before the sheer magnificence of the natural world. Yet amidst the fury of the storm, there was a strange sense of order, a terrifying beauty that held a strange allure. The crashing waves, the blinding lightning, the deafening thunder, they were all part of a grand design, a cosmic dance that had been rehearsed countless times before. And as the storm reached its crescendo, there was a moment of eerie calm that fell over the lake. The wind, which had been howling like a banshee, suddenly dropped to a whisper. The rain, which had been falling in torrential sheets, slowed to a gentle patter. And the thunder, which had been roaring like a wounded beast, fell silent. It was as if the very forces of nature had held their breath, creating a moment of stillness in the midst of the chaos. In this brief interlude, the clouds parted just enough to reveal a sliver of the moon, its pale light filtering through the trees and painting the wet leaves in shades of silver. For a few precious moments, the world seemed to stand still. The crashing of the waves, the rustling of the leaves, the chirping of the crickets, all faded into the background, leaving only the gentle patter of the rain and the whisper of the wind. It was a moment of perfect peace, a brief respite from the turmoil of the storm. But even as this moment of calm persisted, there was a sense of unease that lingered at the edge of perception. The stillness of the lake, the sudden hush of the wind, the parting of the clouds, they were all signs that the storm was not yet over, that the fury of nature was merely biding its time before returning with renewed force. And as if to confirm these forebodings, a new rumble of thunder echoed in the distance, faint at first, but growing steadily louder. It was a sound that carried with it the promise of more rain, more lightning, more thunder. The calm was shattered, the truce broken. The storm was gathering strength once more. And as the rumble of thunder grew into a roar, the lake began to churn once more, the waves rising and falling in anticipation of the onslaught to come. The sky, which had momentarily cleared, darkened again, the clouds gathering like an army on the horizon. The brief moment of peace was over. The storm was returning with a vengeance. The man at the edge of the pier raised his head, his eyes searching the darkening sky. He had stood patiently through the worst of the storm, his gaze unwavering, but even he could not deny the awesome power of the forces of nature that raged around him. As the full force of the storm broke over the lake, he turned and ran, his form a dark silhouette against the now stormy sky. He disappeared into the forest, his presence at the edge of the lake as fleeting as the moment of calm that had fallen between the fury of the tempest. And so the storm raged on, the wind screaming through the trees, the rain lashing against the forest floor, the thunder booming like a cannon, and the lightning illuminating the darkness with its cold, harsh light. The lake, once a mirror of the sky, was now a churning, raging sea, a captive audience to the fury of the elements. But even in the midst of the storm, there was a strange sense of beauty, a terrifying grandeur that spoke of the raw power of nature. The towering waves, the crashing thunder, the blinding lightning, they were all part of a grand design, a cosmic dance that had been repeated countless times before. And as the storm continued its relentless assault, there was a sense that something primal was stirring within the observer, a deep-seated fear of the elements, yes, but also a grudging respect for their awesome power. The storm was a reminder of the forces that shaped the world, the forces that had carved the mountains and valleys, the forces that had nurtured life itself. And as the night wore on, the storm gradually subsided, the wind began to die down, the rain softened to a drizzle, and the thunder retreated to a distant rumble. The lightning, too, grew less frequent, its harsh light replaced by the soft glow of the moon. As the first rays of dawn touched the horizon, the clouds parted, revealing a sky washed clean and a world refreshed. The lake, no longer a raging tempest, was a mirror once more, reflecting the azure expanse of the sky and the golden hues of the rising sun. The forest, drenched by the recent rain, glittered with 1,000 diamonds, each leaf and twig adorned with a sparkling jewel that caught the morning light. The air was cool and fresh, carrying with it the scent of wet earth and blooming flowers. A symphony of bird song filled the air, a chorus of rejoicing that welcomed the return of the sun. And in the distance, a gentle breeze rustled through the leaves, whispering tales of the storm that had passed and the calm that had returned. The world was reborn, renewed by the cleansing rain and the purified light of dawn. And as the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting its warm rays over the land, all was well once more.